Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ashley Kimball, and I want to talk to you about a topic that's very near to my heart, and it is raising awareness of autism in the African American community. I want to start by sharing a story. My son CJ, or whom I lovingly call my sunshine, was diagnosed with autism. But let me back up some. 5 months after suffering a miscarriage, I had a very vivid dream. My grandmother, who passed away in 2006, was in this dream, and as I approached her, I could see she was piecing together a beautiful baby boy as if he was a puzzle. I looked down at this beautiful baby and he said to me, "Mama, don't worry, Grandma's putting me back together again. I'm coming back to you." Fast forward 9 months later, I gave birth to CJ. CJ has been remarkable since the day he was born. He had teeth growing in his mouth by 2 weeks of age. He was hitting every milestone and surpassing milestones of his peers. He showed strength and intelligence at a very, very early age. So much so that by age 2, CJ had showed us that he had a remarkable memory. And he did this because he would memorize each and every person's cell phone passcode, and he would use that to his advantage to hack into their phones, go on YouTube, and teach himself how to say his numbers and alphabets in different languages. By age 2, CJ could say his alphabet not only in English, not only count in English, but also in Spanish, Russian, and Hebrew. He could even write the alphabet in Russian and Hebrew. Remarkable, right? But I did notice that there was some regression. CJ wasn't making as strong of eye contact, and he also struggled with comprehending language. While he could talk when it came to communication, especially one-on-one, CJ struggled to articulate what he wanted to say, as well as understand what was being said to him. I took these concerns to his pediatrician, and it took literally 3 times for us to do a screening, which is a piece of paper that has all the different milestones that a child should be able to make by that particular age. 3 times he passed those screenings, but I kept telling his pediatrician, something is different and we need to have him evaluated. After almost a year of complaints, we finally had CJ evaluated, or was able to get a referral to have him evaluated. And sure enough, at age 3, CJ was diagnosed with autism. This brings me to my thesis. There's a racial disparity, along with the lack of education within the medical professionals to understand and identify an autism diagnosis within the African American community. There's 3 main points that I want to discuss with you today. And the first is, I want to tell you what autism is. I want to define what autism is. The second, I want to discuss the ratio of white children who are accurately diagnosed with autism versus African American children. Lastly, I want to discuss research and outcome. Let's transition by starting off with children who receive a diagnosis of autism early in their childhood have a higher percentage of overcoming the barriers and the hurdles that are associated with the autism diagnosis. So, what is autism? Well, according to Sarah Spangler and Vanessa Jensen, 2011, autism is defined as a neural development disorder, or at least it once was. However, through further research and study, the term autism has grown to be said as autistic spectrum disorder. And that is because autism is a spectrum, so much so that you will not find 2 autistic people that are exactly the same. However, you may find that they have similar stereotypical traits. It is also said that boys are 4 times more likely to have an autism diagnosis than girls. Now, after further research, I came to understand this may be due to the fact that girls have a easier advantage, or they tend to easily mimic or mirror their peers greater than boys do. So it's not that girls don't have autism as much as boys, but rather that girls are able to disguise their autism far easier than boys. So now that we've looked at the general definition of autism as well as some statistics, I want to get into the misdiagnosing of African American children as it pertains to autism. Now, here are some estimates. It is estimated that about 3% of African American children have autism in comparison to white children who are at 2%. Vanessa Jensen and Sarah Spangle, 2011, again goes into detail about the statistics of autism. At that time, it was stated that 1 in 110 children, so 1 out of 110, will be diagnosed with autism. However, that research has now grown, or it is now at 1 in 30 children. So there's a huge jump that 1 in 30 children will be diagnosed with autism. The problem with that is that according to Lisa Wiggins, David Mandel, Julia Daniels, these are all either doctors or BCBA's behavioral certified specialists, as well as Carol DeCepi in 2009 stated that Black and brown children are far greater misdiagnosed, meaning that there are Black and brown children who have autism. However, those stereotypical traits that they show are being diagnosed as ADHD or compulsive disorder. This is a disadvantage to these children because they are being treated for a diagnosis that they do not have, and the diagnosis that they have is not being addressed. And now let me tell you about the research and outcome of that. There is an impact that late diagnosis has on children who are starting school. So let's use that same scenario of why children are being misdiagnosed. They are being labeled with other diagnoses. And to just give you an understanding, that's like having diabetes and being treated for a kidney infection. It doesn't help, does it? So imagine being a child who has autism, but you're being told that you have ADHD or that you have some type of compulsive disorder, and now you're entering school and that autism is not being treated. It makes it very difficult to gain an understanding of what's being taught. It's very difficult to have academic success when there are barriers in front of you and no one is helping you or understanding that they're even there. And this is remarkable because these professionals are very well trained in what autism looks like, yet Black and brown children are misdiagnosed. And this happens greatly in the underserved communities of Black and brown children. It is important that we raise awareness. According to Earl Graves, 2023, he did a study, he wrote an article on Spark. Spark is the largest research for autism. And they are pushing to get more African American and other people of color to come in and be a part of their research. And the reason is because they notice that they are underserved and misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed. They also notice that they don't have as strong as a voice and there is not an awareness. They are pushing to get those people, African Americans and other people of color, into these programs so that they can kill the bias that comes with trying to get our autism diagnosis, as well as bring forth education to both the medical professionals as well as the communities and families. So we've looked at autism. We looked at how it impacts Black and brown children, and we've looked at the outcome. So now I want to leave you with the thesis statement again, which is there is a racial disparity along with a lack of education within the medical professionals to understand, identify, and cope with the autism diagnosis in the African American community. Lastly, I want to leave you with this quote by Nathaniel Brendan. The quote is, "The first step towards change is awareness. The second step is acceptance." End quote. You see, if we bring awareness that there is a bias a disparity when diagnosing children with autism that are African American, then we can go ahead and accept that and accept the challenge of making a change to it. I want to thank you so much for listening.